Hey, what's going on, internet? Josh Noel from SonduckFilm. In this tutorial, we will be creating a cartoon city at night, and this is what we'll be creating. Okay, so essentially, we have the lights coming on as we scale into this shot. We have a little bit of animation going on. As you can see in the foreground here, the shadows are moving as the moon scales up. So all this was created inside of After Effects. You could go ahead and create some of these elements in Illustrator, and personally I would suggest doing that. But for this tutorial, I wanted to create all the elements inside of After Effects. You can download this project file off of my website, link in the description, and I highly suggest you do this if you want to follow along with this tutorial. If you want to be the coolest person in the world, drop a like and hit that beautiful subscribe button. Go ahead and start a new composition, and let's call this main, and I'll call it 2. Let's set it to 24 frames per second, and the duration, let's leave it at 10 seconds. And let's click OK. And start off by creating our background. So we can go to Layer, New, Solid, and we call this one Background, and click OK. And then I'm going to go to Effect, Generate Gradient Ramp, and this will create our background. I'm going to set it to Linear Ramp. And then I'm going to change black to maybe a light blue like that. And then go to end color and maybe change it to a darker blue. Maybe brighten this up just a little bit. Okay. And then I'm going to go to ramp scatter and really just ramp that up a little bit, because that will take away the banding inside of this layer. So having that helps a lot. All right, let's go ahead and create a foreground reference. So what I'll do is create a new solid and call this one road. And I'll go ahead and just paste in my hex code here. Keep it like a light blue and click OK. And go to the rectangle tool, grab the mask, and then just drag out a road just like this, and maybe raise it up a little bit. There we go. And the one thing you gotta keep in mind while creating this animation, since we're doing like a nighttime sort of scene, you gotta think about the palette of colors. So typically with night scenes, blue seems to be the color that what they use in more like in films, or if you want to really simulate nighttime, blue seems to be the color to stand out. So we'll be using a lot of blue colors in our palette. Go ahead and create some background buildings first, so we can have a reference where everything's gonna be at. So go ahead and create a new solid, and we'll keep it like a dark gray. And click OK. We'll call this one Background Buildings. And click OK. Now I'll go to the rectangle tool and we'll draw a mask, just like that. Then we'll go to mask 1 up here and go to Edit, Duplicate. Then we'll hit V on our keyboard to bring up the selection tool. And we will move this building over. And then I will shift click this point and then click it again. And then shift click the other point down here, and then I can shift click and drag down, and now we have a little variation in the buildings. And then once again, I'll just duplicate mask 2, move it over, shift click again, and start dragging, if we want to go up or down. So now it's really just a matter of going across this entire composition and creating variations. And it's really easy to do because there's really no objective here. Just go ahead and create your buildings. So the one thing that you should keep in mind in this tutorial is that I use more solid layers rather than using shape layers to create shapes. And that's because I feel like it's a little bit easier to adjust instead of having to go into all the layers of the shape layers. And plus you can see what color they are through the little color swatch on the layers panel right here. So that's really cool. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump ahead until I'm done with this little part of the tutorial. So I'll be right back. So it's done, and I did change the color of our background to more of a dark blue. And once we're done with this, you go ahead and just drag this and put it underneath road. And there's our background buildings. So the next thing we want to do is, since we want to create as much depth as possible, is we should create more of a midground sort of background buildings, if that makes sense. So create a new solid. I'll call this one Mid Building BG. And then we'll change the colors to maybe a little bit a lighter color like that, and click OK. And then essentially we have to do the same exact thing again, but this time I'm not going to start off on the edge. I'm just going to make it, maybe I'll make them a little bit wider. And once again, we do the same exact thing like we did before. And pretty much this is all straightforward. I'll be right back. So now we finished our midground building, so I'll go ahead and drag that underneath the road layer. So now let's create the moon. So I'll create a new layer, and we'll call this layer moon. And select a light gray sort of color, and click OK. And then we'll go to the ellipse tool, and we will hold down Alt and Shift on our keyboard to draw out a perfect circle. And that's good. And then I will move our mask to about the center of our comp. And actually what I can do is go to the line and use the middle tools here to perfectly align our moon here. Well, and then I have to drag out the layer up. Boom. There we go. So we have a moon directly in the middle of our sky. All right, so let's go ahead and create like a little haze around the moon. So I'll create a new layer, call this Haze. And same color is okay. And then let's go ahead and lower the opacity of this layer. All right, and then we'll go to the pen tool. And let's go ahead and create a mask around our moon here and try to keep it, nice, have a nice perfect curve and have like no bumps. So as less points that we use, the better. And maybe drag there like right there, and then we'll finish up the mask. We'll finish the mask like that, and then we'll drag this little point in, and boom. So now we have a really cool haze. What I'll do is I will duplicate this layer. I will hit R on my keyboard, bring up rotation, and I'll rotate it like that, and then we will move this layer up to be like right there. Okay, and then what I'll do is click on the moon layer, go to Effect, Blur, Gaussian Blur, and we'll go ahead and increase that just by a little bit. So because the moon shouldn't be perfectly in focus and sharp as it is, since the moon is so far off in the distance anyway that it really shouldn't be in focus if you're like shooting this on a camera. So it doesn't really make sense to have a sharp moon. So adding that Gaussian blur just really makes this a lot cooler and different. And I'm actually going to go to this at the top haze layer and just kind of drag that point in a little bit and readjust that and move that point in. Cool. All right, and then I will comp all these together. So I'll select all these layers and go up to layer, pre-comp, and then we'll call this layer moon. So let's go ahead and drag this moon layer underneath the background city, and now we can keep that like right there. Okay, so now let's actually create the buildings. So what we'll do is create a new layer, and we'll call this base. And let's go ahead and kind of create a cool color. Yeah, that should be okay. And click OK. And go to the rectangle tool, and we'll just draw out like a base of a building like this, maybe. Yeah. All right, and I'll go to selection tool and move that mask right above our road. So we'll just move this right there. Should be okay. Okay. So now that we have created the base of our building, what we can do now is create a new solid, and we'll call this window 1, and we'll select like a dark, gray sort of shade and click OK. And then just go to a rectangle mask here and just draw out like a window like that, and then we'll move the mask to be directly over our building. And actually I'll go ahead and make this a little bit smaller. Perfect. Okay. Cool. And then I will duplicate this layer, and we will move this layer over. I hit P on my keyboard to bring up the position. And then once again, duplicate this layer, hit P on my keyboard, and move this over on our position. All right. And to say center this layer, we'll select the window 1 in the middle here and the base layer, and go to align layer, and we'll center this, so just like that. And then now this one will have to be more based on sight, but that actually does look pretty much centered. So I got lucky there. You might have to move around using the arrow keys to kind of center up these windows. So then when we're done, we'll go ahead and duplicate these layers. Make sure to drag the new layers up to the top, And boom, we have our windows there. Duplicate them again. And we will drag these down. And we might be able to do one more. Alright. And then since I have a little bit of an issue here, I'm going to go ahead and go to the base layer to make my life easier. Select the two endpoints that are here at the bottom and drag this out like this. And then select the entire building and I'll just move it up. Alright, cool. And then now let's go ahead and create like the roof. So create a new layer. I'll, maybe use a different color than we use for the building. Maybe a lighter shade. We'll call this one roof. And then we'll just select like a little roof shape like this. And then drag it to the top of this building. And then maybe create a little variation on the roof. Yeah, it's not too bad. So there we have a little bit of roof. Maybe I'll make it darker. I don't think I like that light color. Yeah, that's a little bit better. I think I like that. Let's go ahead and turn the lights on in this building. So we can do is like select one window at random, go up to Layer, Solid Settings, and then we can easily change the color of this window. So we can click on like, that could be yellow, and then we select like another window, select some more at the top, and then change these settings to maybe like a white, maybe the same color as the moon maybe. I'm just creating a little bit of variations into the lights, select yellow, just more of a personal touch. You do whatever you want. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and change the colors building just by a little bit. Make it a little bit darker. Okay, so we have our first building. Let's go ahead and comp up all of our building layers. So from roof to base, we'll go ahead and pre-compose this layer, and we'll call this one building 1. And there is our building. And let's go ahead and just drag this underneath the road layer. So make sure we're directly on the road, and we can kind of drag this down just by a little bit. Okay, and then what I'll do is go to project, and I'll go to building 1, and I will duplicate that comp, and then I will open up building 2. So from here, it's pretty much easy to update your building. So we can just click on the base layer, drag down the mask layer, boom, and then we can select the top windows, delete them, go to the roof, drag this down, create a little bit of a variation in the roof, change the color of it a little bit, maybe make it a little bit lighter. Go to the base layer, change the color of this layer to maybe maybe to green, who knows. And then click OK, and then we can change the color of these windows a little bit, and I can select this yellow here. I can, put this back to gray. Maybe make this one, a white. Click, it's right there. Change the color of the roof to something else. Sorry about that. Okay, so now that this building is done, we can go back to our main comp here and drag in building 2. And here's our building 2, and we can maybe move this right over here. And that's how you can quickly duplicate your buildings and kind of create variations. So I'm going to go ahead and create more of a complex building now, just like this one right here, which has a little bit more shapes involved in it. So let's go ahead and create that building right now. So we can duplicate building 1 again in the comp and open it up. So let's go ahead and so let's go ahead and just bring this building all the way down to the bottom here, because this is going to be kind of a tall building, and we are going to scale this in our main comp. But anyways, to go ahead and turn off the roof. And then let's go ahead and duplicate our base layer. Duplicate our base. Oh, duplicate it. Okay. And then what I'll do is I'll just scale this base down a little bit. Kind of just like that. And I will move this to the top here. It's really tall. Cool. All right. And then I'll go ahead and duplicate a couple of windows. Just need 2 windows. Go ahead and just select 2 windows at random. And then I'll just move these to the top here. Duplicate them again. And I'll leave it at that. That's fine. Maybe I'll move them in a little bit. Cool. And then I'll go back to our roof layer. Drag this to the top. Kind of make this like a triangle, like an actual, your ideal triangle. Like that. Maybe drag this in a little bit. These endpoints. Alright, maybe move these windows up a touch. And maybe drag this out a little bit. Alright, cool. And then once again, I will change the color of this roof to this blue here. And let's go ahead and duplicate the base layer again. And let's go ahead and scale this down by a lot. We'll put this right here. Yeah, that's cool. And we'll go ahead and duplicate it again. And this time I'm just going to select the mask and just really just drag this in like that. Be on my keyboard, bring a position, and we'll move this to about the center. And now we have a cool little building. We can maybe start changing the colors of these windows to create more of a variation. We're back in main 2, and I'll drag down building 3. And building 3 is right here. And we drag this up a little bit. And let's go ahead and scale it down because it's going to be more of like a background building. So just make sure we have it all in the shot. So that's how you can quickly create buildings in After Effects. Please keep in mind that you can download this project in the description. I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead here. So if you do download this project, you can kind of just already have these buildings pre-made for you because, I don't want to go ahead and spend another 10 minutes creating these buildings. So now that we have all the basic elements in this comp, let's go ahead and start creating detail. Let's go ahead and create a couple of clouds. So what I'll do is create a new solid. We'll make it maybe a dark gray since clouds shouldn't be that bright. I'll call this one cloud 1. And what I'll do is go to the ellipse tool, hold down Alt and Shift on my keyboard to draw out a perfect circle. And then let's go ahead and duplicate this layer. And we'll drag the mask 2 right over here. Duplicate the mask again. Drag it over here. And drag another one over here. So now we have a cloud. And I can move this up. And there's one cloud, and then let's go ahead and create another cloud. I'll just go ahead and duplicate this layer. Go open up the mask by hitting M on my keyboard. Let's actually move this over here so we know what we're doing. And then I'll just go ahead and select a couple of these masks and start creating variations. And maybe I'll duplicate mask 4, put this down over here, duplicate it again. Maybe drag this one up, and that's okay. That's another cloud, and actually maybe I'll delete mask 1. And maybe I'll drag whatever mask this is. Alright, cool. So there we have 2 clouds, and I'm going to go ahead and put these underneath our building layers. Maybe just right there. So there we have 2 clouds, and let's go duplicate this road layer, and let's change the color of this road layer to be a little bit darker. And I'll click new, and then I'll select the mask points down here, and I will shift click drag these up. And there we have a little bit of a nice little shade here. And now let's really start creating those shadows. So what I'll do is I'll go up to layer, new adjustment layer. And what I'll do is I'll go to effect, color correction, curves. And we'll just click and draw down a point just like this. Create like a little curve just like that. And go up to the pen tool, and I'll zoom in here. And what we'll do is click a point, right at the base of this building. And click a point all the way down here. And create like this little box here. So now we kind of have a shadow just like that. And I'll do the same thing over here. Maybe I'll select all these buildings. Select, do the same thing down here. Go up to this building. and close the point there. I won't do one for this building here because it's more of a background, and we want to create a little bit of a interesting look. And we'll go there and close that up. And for our last building, cool. And that looks okay. We can make a few tweaks to this. But I'll leave it at that. Okay. Okay, so now let's go ahead and create some building shadows. We'll call this one road shadows. And then I will create a new adjustment layer. And we'll call this one building shadows. And essentially I'll do the same exact thing again. I'll go up to effect, color correction curves. And we won't make this one as intense, but keep it like very subtle. And go back to the pen tool. And now at this point, it's really trying to figure out what looks, cool and sort of realistic. So maybe like right here, there would be a shadow. And plus we want to separate these two buildings anyway, since they're like the same color. So, I'll just go here, probably create something that looks okay. And then, maybe I'll try this. Alright, cool. And then, maybe underneath the roofs here, we'll create like a little bit of a shadow. Boom, there's a shadow. And then up here. So this is how you can really create some cool shadows. And from right here to here, this entire building might want to be in shade. I don't know, but we'll do it. So now that I've created all the different shadows for my buildings here, and now that you can see them, that's basically how you do it. So now that we basically have this entire thing set up and ready to go, now we can start animating this thing. And animating this is actually the very short part and kind of the easy part. So what we can do is select the moon layer here, and then hit P on our keyboard. Maybe we'll drag this down just a little bit. I'll hit the stopwatch for position, move to like maybe 5 seconds or however long you want this animation to be. And we'll drag that up. So now the moon is rising up. Let's animate the clouds. Select both clouds, hit P on our keyboard. Click the stopwatch for position. Hit forward in time. Select one of these clouds. Move it a little bit closer. And move the X position. And now we've animated the clouds. Make sure we enable motion blur for the moon and the clouds layer. And then let's go ahead and start turning on these lights. Let's go to like maybe comp 3, building comp 3. And how we can adjust the lights is pretty cool. So what we do is select one of these windows, go to effect, generate fill, and make sure the fill is selected to the dark window. And then click the stopwatch for color. We'll move in here, and then we'll move forward, just a few frames, and then we can change this color to be yellow. So now the light turns on just like that, and then we can just start copying this effect if we want, and we can maybe paste it up in this window. Hit U on the keyboard, bring up the keyframes, and drag this forward in time. So now this light turns on, this light turns on. We can even turn off some of these lights that are already on. All we have to do is go up to effect, generate fill. Make sure to select that white color. Hit stopwatch for color, move forward in time, and then hit the set it to a dark window color, and then now we have the building lights animating, and that's pretty cool. All right, so now you can go into, all the different compositions here for the buildings and start animating the lights just like that, if that's what you want to do. And basically the last thing we got to do now is animate these shadows, because as the moon rises up, the shadows, of course, are going to want to move. And honestly, it makes most sense for the foreground shadows. So what we'll do is go to the road shadows. And this is very easy to do. We'll move forward to the beginning of this timeline. We'll hit M on our keyboard, enable the stopwatches for all the mask here, move to 5 seconds, and then deselect all the masks. And then make sure all the masks are deselected and hold down shift and start clicking the 2 front points for each of these masks. And then we will click and drag them just like that. So now the shadows are moving, and that's pretty cool. All right. So now let's go ahead and animate this entire thing. So what we'll do is we will make sure to enable maybe motion blur for the shadows. And turn on motion blur for the road shadows. And then let's go ahead and pre-comp this entire composition. And then we'll just call this, city. And now to animate this, we'll hit S and P on our keyboard to bring up positioning and scale. Click the stopwatch, move to 5 seconds. And we will scale this up by a little bit and position it up. And the one thing you want to make sure you do is click this little vector icon. And this will basically allow you to scale in completely and retain perfect layer quality, so you're not going to be seeing pixels or anything like that. So that all depends on what you want to click, and make sure to turn on motion blur. And so hopefully now you guys can create something that is much better than this. This was just all the basic concepts you needed to get started and doing whatever you want to do. So if this tutorial has helped you, please drop a like. It helps me out tremendously. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing for more After Effects and filmmaking tutorials. Please follow me on my social media sites, links in the description. And guys, thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I will see you soon.